We knew we wanted to have a family, but, school and work, we didn't want to start a family immediately. The roller coaster of grief that I feel like a special need parent kind of operates on is overwhelming. I think even then, I was grieving what she wasn't going to be or wasn't going to have or do.
Hi, and welcome to the Ordinary Brave podcast. We're so glad that you've joined us today, and we have another amazing story from a sweet friend of mine, Mandy Rawls, and she's going to be sharing just her story of ordinary bravery and things that they've experienced in their family with their incredible daughter, Madison, and they have an awesome son, Dylan, as well. But I can't wait for you to hear their story and just how God has worked in this whole situation in their lives. Well, hi, Mandy.
Hello.
Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
I'm so glad to have you.
Yes, I feel so special.
Well, you are.
Oh, well.
So for those of you who may not know Mandy Rawls, she is a teacher at the high school. And what do you teach?
Family and Consumer Sciences, which is, we used to call it home ec. That's everybody's frame of reference.
It's super important, though. Feel like a lot of people may not know all of those things anymore.
Yeah, it's just life skills, basic life skills.
I'm glad it's being taught. Is every student required to take it?
No, it's an elective.
Because I feel like growing up, was it required?
I think back in the day, yeah. I do think there was a heavier emphasis and more priority placed on it back in the day, but it is just an elective.
I remember it more in middle school for some reason. I'm trying to decide.
That was my first introduction to
I
it.
may not have gotten to take it in high school. It's a long story, but I went to an art school for half a day every day in high school. But I remember sewing a stuffed animal.
Yeah, of all the things that a home ec teacher should know how to do, I cannot sew. I am truly a disgrace to my profession. It was my only course in college for my degree that I got a D in. And
Sewing?
It was horrific.
Well, I couldn't sew, even though I had the class. I always joke and say I can't even sew a button on, but I think I could. I think I could sew a button.
I can do the basics. I can hem. I can repair. Sew on buttons.
Well, that's totally not D material. That's at least a C.
But like creating things from nothing, following patterns, threading a sewing machine. No, I'm out.
Do you like knit and crochet at all? Yeah, I can't do any of that because you have to keep up with the pattern, and my brain doesn't want to.
Not interested in that.
Yeah, same. Didn't mean to go off on that.
Okay.
But, well, I know you through church is really how we first met at Stephen Street, and was a part of your life group and came to know your family and y'all's story. And it's just one that I love and have loved to be able to watch you all as we've been here 10 years and your family has grown and changed, and mine has too. But why don't you tell me how your family came to this area, the Upper Cumberland, Cookeville?
So it was not really a choice to move here per se. My husband got a job at Tennessee Tech, and we had been living in South Carolina. And in Rock Hill. And I thought we were very content there, and we were loving our newly married life out there. And he applied for this job, and just, he got it, and very unexpectedly. And I was teaching school out there and had to finish up my semester. I didn't even finish out the whole school year, but he came ahead and moved to Cookeville. And I followed shortly behind in about, 5 months. I moved here. And so that was actually 20 years ago this month.
Oh, wow.
We've been living here in Cookeville, and I did not come here willingly. I did not want to leave South Carolina, and was devastated to move to Cookeville of all places, because it just... Growing up in Tennessee, I didn't even know Tennessee Tech was in this town, because it just was such a no-name town to me. And I was so sad to come here. I cried most of the 7-hour drive to get here. But After being here only maybe 2 or 3 weeks, it was very much our drive to find a church home because I didn't have a teaching job coming in January. So what was I going to do? What could I, really fill my time with and be a part of? And so we visited one church before we went to Stephen Street for one Sunday, and that was not the right fit. And so the second Sunday that we visited in Cookeville was at Stephen Street, and we never left. And so, that was like the first week of February. I think that we wound up visiting Stephen Street. So,
and that was Jimmy Arms, right?
Yes.
Pastor.
Oh, yes.
I love he and his wife, and I think if I'd be visiting, he was the pastor too. I wouldn't want to go.
Yeah,
anywhere else.
It was him and the worship, and being a singer and having a musical background. I don't know, just the spirit of worship that we felt at Stephen Street that very first Sunday. I don't know that I had really felt that in a church service in a long time. And so even though we had come from a wonderful church in South Carolina, there was something there that was different. And I still feel that way 20 years later. Yeah. That there's just the spirit of the Lord is ever present at Stephen Street.
So did you start teaching at the high school the next year? Have you been at different schools?
That January, obviously coming mid-semester, could not find anything. But when I joined the choir at Stephen Street, I wound up sitting right beside Dr. Terry Anderson, who was in the school system and principal at Jerry Whitson Elementary. And she was like, "All right, what do you do?" I was like, I'm a fax teacher, and like there's no openings here. What am I going to do with myself? And lo and behold, at the end of that school year, the family consumer sciences teacher at Cookeville High School retired.
Oh, wow.
And Dr. Anderson, was very instrumental in speaking to the CTE supervisor at the district office and putting in a good word for me to help get me, I guess, on the panel to even be interviewed. And then as it turns out, the principal at that time, I had been doing my homework, pageants prepared me to do that for interviews. And he graduated from MTSU. And
you went to MTSU.
I graduated from MTSU, and I learned that he had played baseball there. And it was kind of an unspoken thing that if you didn't graduate from tech, you probably weren't going to get a job here back in the day. And so I just, casually brought that up in the interview. I was like, I found out that we have something in common. And so we started talking about all the Blue Raider things. And I feel like that really, sealed the deal.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
Yeah.
That college education.
Oh, yeah. It sure did.
Now, you met your husband at MTSU.
I did.
And you brought up pageants. So I was going to say, you have to tell that story
That's
really
how
quick.
we met. So I had started competing in pageants my freshman year, just because I was actually speaking at something when I was in high school, and a lady approached me and she was like, "You need to do pageants." And I was like, "What?" Then I started learning about all the scholarship money, and so I got very interested in that. And because I was a singer and had that outlet to express my talent, I was like, "Oh yes, I am definitely going to do this." And so competed for those first couple of years, and won a title in my hometown, was Miss Tennessee Valley, and got to go to Miss Tennessee, which was so cool. And I just had told my local director at that time, I was like, okay, well, I won my hometown title. I want to win my college title. And so I went back to sign up for the Miss MTSU pageant. I had done it as a freshman, I believe. And who's the executive director of the pageant but Dustin Rawls? His fraternity was the sponsor of the pageant. And so I got to know him in a professional capacity first. I had to turn in all my paperwork to him, and I had to ask my questions about, and he was the one communicating about all the rehearsal dates and the meetings and whatnot. And then, I don't know, our personalities, I was actually dating somebody at the time, and he was trying to hit on all the other contestants. And so it was just kind of crazy that a friendship developed from that, but it truly did. And so I did not win. I lost by 1/10 of a point. It was very sad. But, Lord has other plans.
Yeah.
And
But
so,
you really won, as he
well,
would
that's
say.
his exact answer, Kelly. That's exactly what he says. His
I
words
can hear
exactly.
him now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But our friendship just evolved and turned into more than friendship. So
Yeah.
yeah, and then we just celebrated 22 years.
That's
A
awesome.
couple of weeks ago. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
We're celebrating our 20th coming up.
Nice. Big
So-
plans? Going anywhere?
I don't know. I haven't decided yet.
Yeah. Okay.
It's on the table. Part of me just wants to be super chill.
Yeah.
But then the other part of me, is super adventurous, and I want to go and see and do, and I'm just trying to decide like what would be best right now.
We did a cruise. That was our 20th
Yeah.
anniversary present, and we're talking about for 25 going to Hawaii. So
Ooh.
we'll see. I don't know.
Well, we did that for 15, I think.
Oh, well.
I don't know. No, maybe it was his birthday, his 50th.
Okay.
We did that.
Okay.
And we got really blessed. Somebody we know has a place there and let us stay there, which made it
Well, let
a lot more affordable.
Let us know about that place.
Yes. It's
in
pretty
3
amazing.
more years when we're
Yes.
trying to plan that trip. So
Yes.
glad that came up.
Yes, yes. Well, let's talk a little bit just about your family. So you said you guys have been married 22 years. And so talk about like when you found out you were going to have a baby for the first time, and we can just kind of go into more of Madison's story.
Sure. So we knew we wanted to have a family, but school and work, we didn't want to start a family immediately. But I found out I was pregnant in 2008, and we were overjoyed. And then I lost that baby, and that was a very dark time for me. Just because I don't know, like that was never in my plan. That was never part of the equation to get to having a family, was to lose a child. And so took me a long time to kind of emotionally recover from that, and then found out the following year in 2009 that we were pregnant again. And of course, having experienced that loss was just on pins and needles the whole time. Which I always felt guilty because, I have faith. I believe in the Lord. I trust the Lord with his plans for my life, but I just could not let go of that anxiety and worry. Is this baby okay?
Sure.
Is this baby going to make it? What did I do? What happened? And that was just part of my spiritual immaturity at that time. I was 29 at that time. And then we went in for our gender scan to find out what we were having when I was 18 weeks pregnant. And the ultrasound tech was just I could just tell it was an abnormally large amount of time taking scans of the baby. And even though I had not made it that far in my previous pregnancy, I just knew that was not right. And she was focusing on the head a lot. And so I was just kind of trying to push aside those feelings of there might be something wrong. There might be something here. And then when my OB came in the room, like I could just see it on her face that there was something there. Something was not quite right. And so
Was Dustin with you?
Yes, yes, because it was our big day, to find out. And it was a girl. We were, overjoyed. We had already named all of our children on a Waffle House napkin while we were engaged. So we already knew this was Madison in there because we had already picked that name. And so she came in and was like, well, I can't see everything like I need to, but I'm pretty sure I see signs of spina bifida with the shape of her head and her cerebellum. It is misformed, but we're going to need to refer you to a high-risk specialist and really get to the bottom of it. And so that just really, I'll just say it derailed my pregnancy. So all of that anxiety and doubt and fear that I had, just trying to make sure that the baby was still alive, was just amped up to now, like, what is my baby going to be like? And what, I very much lived in this mentality of what is wrong with her or what will be wrong with her. And I completely reject that now. And I loathe when people ask that or imply that something is wrong. And I know that that's kind of just, I guess that's like the easy thought or the most I don't know, maybe the most logical thing to ask, but it's hurtful.
Yeah.
And we've even tried to like teach our son, like we don't want to ever ask that about somebody. You know, what's different? What makes you different, instead of saying what's wrong. But I was consumed with what was going to be wrong with her and what was her life going to be like. And so that just set us on a path. Kind of like I said before, I did not plan for that
Yeah.
path.
So you really had like half of a pregnancy to go.
Yeah, but right at half by the time we officially got the spina bifida. She was never in the right position for them to see her spine was the problem. We finally we had a very terrible experience at one high risk specialist, and I was like, I can't. I'm not going back there. And I asked my OB to send me to Vanderbilt, and we had a wonderful experience there. And so Madison's been a patient there since she was, 20 weeks prenatal, you know, and is still a patient there. But that was a rough time, very dark time for me in pregnancy. And I have so many pictures of joy at baby showers, and just knowing, like, when I got home, I was in tears and just, struggling to come to terms with what was her life and our life going to be like once she got here.
Do you feel like it was like fear of the unknown?
Yeah. And I still, to this day, she is 15, almost 16. And the roller coaster of grief that I feel like a special need parent kind of operates on is overwhelming. And I think even then, actually I know then, I was grieving what she wasn't going to be or wasn't going to have or do. I was grieving that I had wanted to have a family. We had miscarried. I wanted this pregnancy to be healthy and, typical. And I was losing out on that because everything was just such a train wreck with all the doctor's appointments and the uncertainties. And so I just, the fear of the unknown, but I was grieving all of the things that I was pretty sure we were going to miss out on.
So tell me about your faith at this point, and maybe like the church, how was the church with you and all of this? Oh man.
I mean, I can honestly say, like, I don't know how we would have made it through without our Stephen Street family. We have no family here in Cokeville. We still don't to this day. And not because we have uninvolved family, but they don't live here. And so there was never anybody to sit and cry with, other than just being in our home together. And I can recall many times just weeping on the steps of the altar in the sanctuary.
Yeah.
And friends just, coming beside me. And I don't want to cry now, but.
Well, that's just the beauty of God's family.
Sitting in the grief with me. Stephen Street was such a force of prayer for us. And when Madison did finally come along, I felt like, and even people said, like, she was the church's baby. And
she still is in a lot of ways, man.
There were just
She's
so
like
many
a superstar.
people that were just surrounding us and lifting us up and doing for us the things that we could not do for ourselves in that time. And that has not stopped. To this day, that has not stopped. And so I cannot imagine that there is a better real life depiction of the New Testament when we're supposed to carry and bear each other's burdens. I can't imagine that anybody has done that better for a family or for a child or for parents than Stephen Street has done for us. Truly.
Yeah, there's some great people
there.
So I want to keep going with Madison's story, but since we were talking about pregnancy and all of that, so I know that you all have Dylan. So let's talk a little bit about Dylan really quick. So how much younger is he than Madison?
He's almost 4, not quite 4 years younger than her.
Were y'all wanting to try again?
No.
Was it a surprise?
Total surprise.
Okay.
And I just was so overwhelmed when I found out I was pregnant because my two trains of thought were, I cannot I cannot take care of another baby with Madison's needs as great as they were. There's no way that I have the time or the energy to devote to parenting a newborn. And then my other train of thought was, I could not love another baby as much as I love her.
Aw.
Like, I just love her so much, and like so much of who I was wrapped up in who she was and my care for her and her impact on my life. So I was like, I could not love another baby, and that's not going to be fair to this baby. And Dustin was overjoyed. I cried. Like, I was just so shocked.
Yeah.
But God is so good, because he redeemed that pregnancy experience for me with Dylan. And I did have to go to high risk doctors just because I had the miscarriage and had Madison born with spina bifida. I did have to go, I think, up through like, I don't know, 14 or 15 weeks. Not super long, just actually long enough to find out that he was a boy. We had a big, huge gender reveal. Didn't do that with Madison, but we had a huge gender reveal, and it was everything that I was pretty sure I could have experienced with Madison, but didn't get to. And so it just was such joy. And he is just pure joy for us.
Yeah.
He's a turkey. We used to call him that when he was little. He's Dylan Pickle. And he just brings such balance to our family, I think. And he's learned how to be such a good helper because of Madison. I think he will be a wonderful man one day, because of, with like real humanity in him, because of what he has experienced with Madison and how he's learned to help her and anticipate her needs and things like that. So
Yeah, that's beautiful. Well, I don't want to pass over him because he is
thank you.
a huge part of the Rawls family too. But all right, so she's born, and now you are like living this out. So what does that look like when she's a baby?
I mean, like, there are parts of it that were just like truly traumatic. She had 2 major surgeries within her first 4 weeks of life, and nothing prepares you as a parent to have your baby cut on and have them experience pain that you can do absolutely nothing to prevent or control. So that was very jarring. I mean, it just really, it like was shaking me to my core. Just watching her experience this as an infant. And then we, of course, were being followed by all kinds of specialists. She really started to have some urological issues emerge when she was between like 1.5, and that led to another surgery when she was 2. That was pretty life-altering for her. And then just as she continued to grow, we kept finding, I don't know, it's kind of like a domino effect. Like, finding out this kind of shed the light on how this was not really functioning like it was supposed to. And that's just really been a domino effect pretty much through her whole life. This week alone, I've had like 5 Zoom calls for telehealth with her doctors at Vanderbilt, because we couldn't make it because of weather. And they think they've diagnosed something else new, that we need to try and find some resolution for. But just back to your original point, though, like, as she was little, like, it was unbearable at times to see her just have to go through so much and not be able to do anything. I mean, just being completely powerless. And that added a whole new layer of grief for me, that just has continued to ebb and flow over her whole life. And I'll never get over it. I mean, I never will. There are times that I learn how to, I guess, manage it. I don't know. Sometimes I don't deal, and it just bubbles over and I can't help it. But that's just always, that's a roller coaster I can't get off of. So
Well, I think that's a mom.
yeah.
She's your baby, and you're watching her go through all of that.
Yeah.
So how many surgeries has she had?
So, what I would consider major surgeries, she's had a dozen of those. She just had one in October of this past year. And then outpatient procedures, gosh, like I couldn't even tell you.
Yeah.
Couldn't count those, lost track. But
That's a lot when you consider she's 15.
15, yeah.
And 12 major surgeries on top of all the other
Yeah.
procedures. That's a lot.
And, a couple of those were within the same calendar year, like one in the spring and then another one in the fall. And so, and we're staring down the barrel of another one that we're pretty sure is going to have to happen later this spring, kind of heading into the summertime. So, and that's, that's just part of it. And there's nothing I can do to change that. So I just have to trust God's plan for her life, and that these surgeries and these treatments are us doing the best we can to, provide a quality of life for her and take care of her, which is what we are trying to do as her parents. And so that's just, that's what we got to do.
Well, you said you're trusting God in it. I was going to say, let's ask that same question again. Like, how is faith playing into all of this for you now, or your church, or the community?
So, I mean, I don't know where anybody in life could really live and exist and feel any type of peace or hope without faith. I truly don't. But then when you add in the complexities of being a special needs family, I don't know how they parent without the security of their faith and their hope in Jesus, and that this is not going to be our story forever. I will say, being Madison's mom has, over these years, given me such a desire to be in heaven. And I remember being a teenager and thinking, I don't want to go to heaven. Like, I have way too many fun things I want to do, and I've got to live life, and I'll go to heaven, but that's not something I'm longing for. And that very much changed for me, being her mom. And so heaven is a place I long to be, for her and for us, and know that she will be completely healed there. And so I don't know how anybody makes it without that hope, but especially parents that are living the special needs life. It's a part of everything we do. It has to be, because that's the only thing that keeps me grounded, because it would be so easy to get carried away in all of the negative aspects, the hard aspects of our life, and to that roller coaster I've mentioned, to not, like I said, I can't get off of that roller coaster, but there are times where I can appreciate the roller coaster, and I can acknowledge that, okay, I recognize I'm grieving right now. I'm gonna give myself the space to do that, but I can't stay here in this low point. And I don't know, would somebody without hope be able to say that? I don't know. Do they ever feel as though they have those positive, kind of high points? I don't know how they could feel that.
Yeah. Is there a scripture or anything that you have just found to be something that's helped you and supported you, encouraged you?
Yeah. I love the book of Psalms in general, and I have so many times gone there, because you can feel David's lament in so many passages. But I love the verse, and I can't remember exactly its reference, but I have it saved to look back at on my phone. But it says, "But as for me, the nearness of God is my good." And I just cling to that verse, because choosing to put myself in a place that is near to the Lord, near to his people, in his word, doing his work, is what helps me cope with and manage the things that are beyond my control. And there's great comfort there, being close to him. Also just, I have to remind myself, there's several mentions in the New Testament about God equipping us, equipping the saints. And I did not sign up to be a home health nurse with Madison. I'm a teacher. That's what I chose to do for my profession. And nursing was not interesting to me, but I'm a nurse and I don't love that at all. It's very gross at times with all the things that we deal with. But I just have to remind myself that God's equipping me, and I can look back on times where we were learning new treatments or procedures, and I was like, I can't do this. I cannot do this to my child. And over time, and with just work, I guess, just keeping at it, I've learned how to do those things. And it's not because I was so good at it, or I do have all the makings of a good nurse. So I truly believe that God just equips us to do that and gives us the mindset that we need, because we definitely didn't choose it or wouldn't choose it for ourselves. But I take great comfort in that.
Sure.
So,
well, I was going to talk a little bit more about you being a special needs mom. And as you know, I'm one too. Our stories are different, and our children's stories are different. But what would you maybe say? Like you've mentioned, sometimes people say things that can be hurtful. And we've had that happen, even not necessarily even about special needs. It could just be even about adoption or, anything. And I really feel like I always try to look at people and say, I think they really mean well. But what would you say to people? Like how do you approach a family? If you want to have questions, like you mentioned telling Dylan, like let's ask it in a different way. Is there any kind of advice or something that you'd want to say like, hey, this is how you might want to address this? I
really have noticed the things that have been said that are most hurtful in Madison's life have come from children. And what I would really want to say is, parents, let's do a better job. We have to do a better job of teaching them how to make space in their minds for people who are different. And almost kind of like retraining their brains to see and experience somebody who's different, and to retrain their brain to not just let words fall out of their mouth, but to filter that through trying to be understanding and compassionate to other people. And Madison she would amaze me when she was little. It always seemed to happen at the doctor's office because other kids are coming for, their own things. But even like at the pediatrician's office, and we would be waiting, and when she had braces on her legs, and they would, oh, Mommy, what's wrong with her legs? And every once in a while, if the mood felt right, I would be like, would you like to ask her why she has braces on her legs, to not scare the child, but to maybe invite them in. And like, that's honestly, that's part of it too, is I just wish we were teaching people, even adults, to approach people who are different and who have special needs, to even just find out, why are you different, instead of just assuming why they're different. There are a lot of disabilities that are invisible. And so I think there's a lot of times where there's just a lack of understanding or compassion because somebody just looks normal, which is also a word that we do not like in our household.
Sure.
We say that normal is a cycle on your washing machine. So typical is the word if we want to be more welcoming with our language.
But even that word is, I'm like,
it is.
Are we typical?
I know,
No.
but to us, it's just more, it's more accepting than saying normal, as if to imply Madison is abnormal. And we just don't, that's not how we view her. But just like, I hate when people assume, and I've watched it happen, assume that they wouldn't have anything in common with her or wouldn't know how to talk to her, so they choose not to. They just don't engage with her. And so it's very hard for me to see her in social situations where she has been ignored and kind of cast off to the side. And we're very mindful about not trying to put her in positions or circumstances to be a bystander or a spectator, because that just further delineates her from the other people, you know? Sure. But I just think like trying to help even adults understand some of the language that they use and how they view people who are different. And then that's what can trickle down then to how they share with their kiddos.
Yeah. Well, you might remember that my mom's a special ed teacher. And so I felt like when I lived in her house, I always was familiar with the new lingo. You know, we kind of went from disabilities to, I guess, differently abled, and then it became special needs, and there might even be new words now. But I remember somebody walked up to me one time and said, "Is your daughter typical?" And that was a new term for me. And I was like, I'm not sure. I was like, no, none of us are.
That's great.
And so I wasn't quite sure, but you know, now I understand what they were asking. But so tell me a little bit about y'all's involvement. Our community has an amazing ministry in town called Rising Above that I think is really there to minister to the families. And why don't you tell me a little bit about that ministry and just how it's been a blessing to you all?
Yeah. So Dustin and I have tried to remember exactly how we heard about Rising Above. But I remember that Madison was 3. Dylan had not come along yet, and it was spring. So that would have been 2014, I think. We heard that they were hosting how do they call it? A modified Easter egg hunt, an inclusive Easter egg hunt. I can't remember how they were, but it was an Easter extravaganza. It was going to be held at the Allgood Elementary campus, and we were like, "Well, what is this? We've got to check this out." And then we had also heard about a together, like the number together marriage retreat that Rising Above was hosting for parents of children with special needs. And we were like, maybe we need to check that out. And so those were our first exposures to Rising Above. And that Easter egg hunt, by the way, was just mind blowing in terms of how thoughtful it was and how inclusive it was. Like, I would have never thought about hanging Easter baskets with eggs in them on shepherd's hooks out in the grass so that no matter how you got around,
you could reach it.
And so oh man, that event was so special. So special that I actually wound up bringing my students in my student organization at the high school. We went back and volunteered at that. It was such a great event. That marriage conference was so eye-opening for us about things that we maybe weren't even really talking about in our marriage, but were affecting us, being Madison's parents. And so we just, fell in love with Rising Above. That's been over 10 years ago. And then they just kept coming out with all of these amazing events that were for our family and just for us, and like, everybody wants to feel included. I mean, everybody in life wants to feel like they belong. And that's what Rising Above does best. And so they've got podcasts, which I've been very blessed to be on Becky Davidson's podcast several times. My husband is one of the dads on the Rising Above Dads podcast. And they have books, the By the Brook retreat for moms and caregivers of individuals with special needs. It's every summer, and it's just a time to come and be refreshed. And it's just such a wonderful weekend. And so, I mean, I cannot say enough wonderful things about the events and the things that ministry provides for families like ours. And it's the highlight of Madison's year. She actually just had to make a tough call This year's spring prom is happening the same weekend as 180 weekend for the youth at church.
Yeah.
And she was like, I need to ask Lila. We need to talk. Does Lila want to go to the prom or does she want to go to 180 weekend? And so I was like, well, talk it out because I'm going to need to know which one to pay for, or whatever. But she's decided she wants to do 180 weekend. Her and Lila did talk about it.
Yeah.
And so Lila was willing to forego the prom as well because they got to go together last year. But I love that when she goes to those, like she feels seen and she just leaves so full, like just having had such a great time for events or at events that were designed just for her, and so they do that just beautifully and with such skill. I love everything that they do, and they're just trying to meet families where they are in that journey, wherever the family is on the spectrum of new diagnosis, still trying to come to terms with it to, I have an adult child and now I'm really struggling with how do I make plans for my child's care if something were to happen to me.
Yeah.
They just are meeting families right where they're at. Can't say enough good things about Rising Above.
Well, I attend some of their banquets, their fundraising banquets, and get to hear their stories. But I love that they're also, aren't they going international?
Oh, they have been for a while.
Yeah.
They have multiple community groups that meet internationally. They have had different countries do their own version of By the Brook, which is that moms and caregivers retreat. And they've had people live stream in from different countries. They're sharing resources in different languages all over the world. So yeah, it started out right here in Cookeville and it's literally worldwide now, which is just a testament to the importance of the work that they're doing. And that I think it also says a lot about families like ours that we were desperate for those things and there's nothing else like them out there. So we just gravitate to it.
Yes.
So
well, I think I've shared with you before that we're involved with Rising Above, but not as involved. And sometimes I feel like I should utilize them more just because as a special needs mom, there's certain things, I worry about or have questions about. But then sometimes I feel guilty because I feel like, oh no, I'm not having a daughter that's having surgeries all of her life. And, I'm not having to be that home health nurse. And I just think, no, I won't bother them or whatever. But I'm so thankful for what they do. I have called before and just said, I just need to talk to somebody. I'm crying right now. I just need somebody to hear what I'm dealing with and what do I do and where do I go? And then I just thank the Lord. I'm like, God, you moved me to a town where this ministry is based out of. I'm like, it's just incredible. And I think that for you too.
That's exactly how we feel.
He moved you to this town and God is just really good in that way.
Well, I think that mentality, I think the devil uses that sometimes where we try to minimize and that comparison trap. And don't buy into that because we all have our challenges and our struggles, and nobody's are better or bigger or greater than anyone else's. This is the path that God has called your family to. This is the path that God has called my family to. And same as Becky, living with an adult son who she can't talk to. He is nonverbal. And so I could even look at Becky and be like, I can talk to Madison and I could try and compare and feel like, what we're experiencing is not as significant. And in a lot of ways it's not, but I don't ever want to be caught in that mindset because, I just feel like it's unhealthy. And I would never want you or me to rob ourselves of the opportunity to be blessed by ministries or resources like Rising Above, to rob ourselves of the opportunity to grow and be ministered to because we had that mentality. And so don't do it.
Yeah, I have to check myself on it a lot. Because, it's like you said, some disabilities are hidden and in many ways, just like I've been asked if she's typical, when I didn't really know how to respond to that. at first, you have to kind of get to know her. And then, I mean, you see, just like, Madison, they have these incredible things about them. And so you have to, it comes out eventually as you spend time with them. But I love that our daughters are close friends. And I know that our husbands have conspired that they're going to be roommates one day.
Oh gosh.
And
I don't know what that would look like or how that would work. I'm just like thinking through like all of Madison's medical things, and I'm like, I don't know.
But Lila says that she really wants to be a nurse, and so I just think as you're talking, I'm like, this is wild, because maybe the Lord will work all of this out.
I don't know. They're sweet though, and I love that they have all the reason to be friends because they have special needs, and that's never part of their dialogue. That's never part of why they're hanging out. That's never a part of the conversation. Back out to me as the parent, I'm sure that's not something, that that Lila's come home and been like, well, Madison and I talked about her upcoming surgery or this or that. Like, that's just, they don't see that about each other. And I just love that. Like, that's what I want the rest of the world to view them through that lens. And they just don't sometimes, but that's just not part of the conversation for them. And that's what I think makes them so sweet, and they're just so cute together. I just love them. They're so sweet.
They're both like super girly, which is fun to watch.
Yeah.
And I can be girly. You're more girly than me. Like, you and I are good friends, but I love that, like, they got ready for prom at your house and they were just all dolled up, and I'm like, what do I do here?
You did a great job.
But well, thank you so much for being here and just sharing y'all's story. And, I love your family deeply.
We love
and
you
I
guys.
appreciate you just being transparent and raw, really, just about the things that you all experience. And I pray that, the story will maybe impact a family out there that is struggling, or maybe there's a mom that's really finding out, in a pregnancy, that she's going to have some difficulties. And, we pray first, that you'll look to Jesus and faith, and that you'll have an awesome surrounding church family like Mandy's had and like I've had to help you through those times. But also hope that you'll look into Rising Above, and I'll make sure that my super awesome producer, Joseph, puts that link on this podcast so that you can see that too. But reach out to them, and I know that they would be an amazing resource. But thank you again, Mandy, for being here. And we thank you for being here with us on this podcast and listening to this incredible story. And, bravery looks different in all sorts of forms. And sometimes it's just being a mom and just living your faith out, in your family. And sometimes we have harder situations that we have to live out in our families. And we just pray that you'll lean on the Lord and how you can live out your bravery in your own life too. And if you like this podcast, we hope that you'll like and share it, and we'll see you next time.